Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage. Today we're going to work on the Sweet Heart Roadster trunk project again. In the last video I got the trunk panels all laid out, bead rolled, fixed in place, not welded but fixed, and I made the rear cross member cover, so to speak, for it, and that's all clecoed and zip screwed in place and held in there. Now what I need to do is work on making this cover here that's actually going to be removable for the center section of the rear. So what I need to do is make it out of a few pieces, but again, we're gonna make it so it's removable. So it's gonna take a handful of steps to get all that done. And then hopefully by the end of the video, we'll get everything all spot welded in place and set down, and we will have the trunk part of this project at least quote unquote done. Alright, so in the last couple shots I was putting some riv nuts with threaded inserts into this lower flange and decided it was a lot easier to do it before I welded the top on it. So you can actually see the curvature that this thing has a bit of shape to it. And what I did is I went ahead and transferred those holes to the floors and drilled those holes, so everything is a little easier to do before I weld it all up. So I test fit, laid underneath and put my screws in there, and everything fits well. So I know when I weld the top on, it'll all fit and I'm not monkeying with it from underneath other than just starting the screws. So got my piece here that I'm going to be laying over top. I started out making this I actually made 2 of these before this one, and I was trying to tip the edge and hammer everything over, and it just wasn't turning out as nice as I wanted, and I decided, why don't I just make it a little more simple? It's all getting covered up, and sometimes I've been trying to get better about getting it done and making it simple rather than complex, and it looks okay. So what I'm going to do is I cut another blank, and I'm basically going to weld this. I gotta give it a little tweak with my calibrated knee to get that to sit. But what I'm going to do is just weld right at the edge there, and I'm going to try and melt this top material into the bottom with the TIG, which is one of the beauties of TIG welding. You can kind of use the metal as filler rod, and then I will blend the edge and kind of radius the edge after it's been welded, and use our weld to kind of create that radius. It'll be a little easier, and should work out. So I'm going to get this bent and shaped so it fits, get it all clamped in place, and I'll start tacking it together. We'll test fit everything, then I can go around and fully weld it, and once that fits, then I can go back into I'll probably pull this trans tunnel next, and I'm just going to spend hours welding and finishing and all that. Then we can put everything back together and spot weld the whole mess back in shape and back in place, and we should be good to go. So getting there just takes a lot of time to do this stuff. All right, so what I'm doing here, this might be helpful for anybody that's doing some of this type of stuff. This is just a way I found it's kind of a little easier and helps create like a radius edge. So what I'm doing is, I left, when I sanded everything down, I left just a tiny bit of overhang on the sheet metal on the top here, just a little bit around the whole edge. And what I'm doing as I'm welding, you may see with my hand, I'm moving my torch hand, I'm kind of wiggling it around, and what I'm doing is kind of wicking the metal around like this as I go. So I'm aiming my heat more towards the top piece, and then I'm kind of bringing it down and rolling it over the edge. So what you're doing that whole time is you're melting the excess around and onto that top edge, and then when we go and sand this, we can just basically take the unevenness off of everything, and it should blend all in and should be pretty good and fairly smooth by the end once we do all that. So as consistent as you can be is best. A couple spots in the beginning, I probably put a little bit too much of a radius with the way that I melted it in, but it'll be okay. So, but that's how I do it. This is a nice way you can kind of create a radius edge without putting too much heat or too much filler rod that you have to grind off into it. This is not a lot of extra there, so since it's just melting in, we're just going to take out the unevenness. We're not piling up a ton of filler rod on top and then you have to grind it way down, so you're not going to put more heat into it as you're sanding it. So I'm going to keep working my way around this continuously as I go, and then we'll see how everything fits. I test fitted after I tacked it and everything looked good, and yeah, so keep moving. A lot of welding to do here. Okay. 2 down. Lots more to go.
All right.
All right, so after a bunch of work with the MIG welder, I was able to go around and plug weld everything in. I went and stitch welded the rear cross member cover into the sub rails in the back, which connected everything back here. The sub rails were obviously just open before in this back area, so we connected all that, which is further making this car that much stronger and boxing everything in, which is the goal here, to get this thing more solid as we go. I think we're doing that finally. It feels like we're going in the right direction. So I put this rear pumpkin cover, for lack of a better term, back in there. I just screwed it in. You basically lay under the car, have it up in the lift, and put 4 little flathead screws in, and that tightens down and is good. And everything else, like I said, it's all plug welded in. So back half of the car is getting very, very solid. It's pretty sweet to see this all coming together. This was a lot more work than I planned. I was like, oh, I'll just whip up this crossmember cover and, you know, blah, blah, blah. It turned into like multiple days of work to get everything fitted and all the little pieces in. So all the floor and the different sections were easy to weld up, which made my life a lot easier on the back end rather than just roughing it in and try and fill with a MIG or whatever. It definitely worked a lot better. So now that I have all of this done, I can start working towards, since we're on the floors, I'm going to probably work towards the front of the car a little bit more. Have the panel basically where your feet sit in front of the seat that I need to do, which should be pretty simple. And then after that, we're getting up into the toe board and front floor area where the pedals and stuff are. I'm going to be changing the transmission for anybody that missed that in another video. It currently has a old Studebaker truck transmission in it. It has a McBar machine shop adapter in it, which is one of the first transmissions adapters ever made. And they made an early kit to put a Cadillac and a Studebaker. That was what I had when I started this car. Many years later, my collection has gotten a lot better and bigger, and I think I'd like to put a LaSalle in it because it is a little bit better of a transmission, and I have other cars with it, so if I need parts, I have a bunch of them. Studebaker trans, I don't really have much of that. So next video, I'm going to be working on swapping out the transmission, figuring out the trans mount, see if I can adapt my old one to that. Then we can start working on the floorboards in the front there, and again, continuing to make this car more solid, button up loose ends, and fill in the gaps and different stuff that I've roughed in. We can start to finish it out and make it actually nice. So big steps going on with the Sweet Heart Roadster, still just making it solid. Hopefully we'll be into making it pretty someday in the near future this year. So thank you guys for following along. Appreciate it. Catch you later.